great Hell in the Cell match. And
Yeah.
I'm talking about Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, the blow-off match, if you will. Wow, what a way to kick off Bad Blood.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, you could have switched that match in the main event, but with everything that you had happen at the end, I understand why they did it, and I think it was probably better that it went on first rather than like third or in the middle or something like that. The only problem that it kind of started with like no momentum, right? But it kind of set the tone. They didn't hold nothing back.
And this match was everything we thought it would be. It wasn't going to be a 5-star classic, although I do have to say personally, I think this is in contention for match of the year. Just unreserved violence. It was just everything that needed to happen to have this blow off match, especially after such a big feud that's been going on the better part of a year. We had tables, we had the steps being brought in, chairs at one point, a toolbox, which I'm not too.
You didn't like the toolbox. Some people weren't. Like, I seen Bully Ray talking about it, he didn't like the toolbox. Because we seen the toolbox in the AEW cage match not too long ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't overly.
I liked it. I didn't mind it because
I think
it makes sense. Yeah, the toolbox made sense. Like, it would be under the ring. You could see it being something that's under the ring, and it's what was inside the toolbox. That wasn't like a syringe or some random shit. You know what I'm saying? It was some wrenches, like a chain, stuff you could see used. Yeah. And everything that was in the toolbox, including the toolbox, was used.
Yeah, and I think that's where Drew got his split fucking decision up there, because when they both got some juice in the match, which was needed. This was necessary. This match needed that. It called for it. It's not like every match on the card has somebody bleeding like we see elsewhere. Just that was what was needed in this feud. But boy, oh boy, Drew really, really, really got gushed open, man.
Yeah. And that wasn't like a safe Hell in a Cell either. Like the red ones we've seen in the past, like not too long ago, it seemed like this one seemed like you didn't, and they played it off so well and they sold it so well that you didn't want to get like thrown into it and dragged around it, because you would get split open. You could see the back of Drew's back, somewhat on Punk's too, that it was just brutal. So a good way to incorporate the cell, make it different from what they've done and bring it back to the past.
And there was one part I actually had to turn away. I had actually messaged you about it. They had brought a table in the ring, and they had broken off one of the legs of it, and Punk used it to slam down on Drew's face, but the leg of the table was like sticking down.
Yep.
And I don't know if Punk saw it or not. And when he came down, I was like, oh my God, he's going to spike Drew right in the fucking eye. I was like, oh my God. Like, I had to turn away. I said, oh boy, oh man.
Yeah, it didn't look good at one point. Yeah, and that was definitely like a freak accident that was about to happen too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They avoided
everything about the match though. Started off 5 stars, instant classic for sure. Like, Drew caught Punk outside early with that Claymore too. Like, everything they were doing was just great.
Yeah. I mean, it just everything set up and it built, and it wasn't there wasn't quick falls at the beginning. They were there to beat each other up. Like, that was their goal. They weren't worried about the pins. We didn't actually start seeing pins until a little while into the match.
Right. Yeah.
It was just brutality. Punk got some juice early on. He hit Drew with the toolbox, and I think that's what split him open. And when Drew stood up and the blood just started pouring down, I said, oh man, he fucking got it. I said, oh boy. And
because Punk was the one originally split open, and he bled for a little bit. He was bleeding all over, but Drew, he was gushing, man. And like, to see that picture afterwards with the staples in his head, like, you think those staples are real? You think that was real?
That was definitely real. There's a whole video of it, of him.
Okay, them doing the staples.
Them like cleaning it and stuff. And because you had messaged me and said, you didn't like the towel. Like, you were like, what the hell are they doing with the towel? I think they were generally concerned about it. I'm like, that was
makes sense. Yeah,
boy,
more than they thought.
Yeah.
And so, how do you think that happened? Like, with the cut, like, to kind of pull it back a little bit. Do you think that was planned and he just cut himself too much with it? Do you think the toolbox caught him too much on the head? Do you think it was a razor blade? He's just not used to putting it on top of the head. Like,
I think there was a spot in the match where Punk was outside the ring and Drew came out to grab him, and Punk swung up with the toolbox and hit him. And I think it got a corner. I think it just
and it was so
a hard
good
connection. It was
It seemed like a real toolbox too. Yeah. And they were both so out of it. They both like sold it so well throughout the match. That time when like Drew was trying to pick up the steps from the outside and he was like, he was like struggling to get them inside the ring. He was going to throw it over and he was like out of it from bleeding so much. Like,
yeah. And then the tools weren't overly used. I mean, they were used like a little bit in the match, but like I like the struggle. Like there was a couple different times the sharpshooter and then the Anaconda Vice.
Right.
Drew was in it and there's no rope breaks or anything, so he was struggling. He reached for the wrench and was just desperately trying to hit Punk with it to break it. I think it was well done for what it had to be. It was well done. That suplex over the top onto the outside through the table was just well done. The legs stuck up and Punk's legs wrapped right around the leg of the table, and I said, oh man, it was they avoided disaster. And to bring it to what you had said, Drew got the steps in the ring. They were struggling over the steps in the ring. He went out and got a bag, and everybody and their brother probably thought it was thumbtacks.
I did for a second. Yeah.
And at that point, I said, "Here we fucking go with thumbtacks." I'm not a big fan of thumbtacks. I understood when Mick Foley did it back in the day, that was his thing, but now everybody uses them, and I said, "Oh my god!" But it wasn't thumbtacks, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was beads, baby.
Oh man.
God damn, it was crazy. Yeah.
Combat Arts and Crafts Jones over there.
A lot of them, baby. Reminiscent of that. The same beads from the same friendship bracelets.
And we got to say at this point, shout out to Victoria for being able to kind of have her moment going and being at Bad Blood and being backstage with CM Punk and him making her a custom bracelet. She finished her story with that, and that's really great to see.
Yeah, shout out there. That was awesome. So cool.
Yeah. So Drew dumped the beads all over Punk, and that just lit a fire under his ass.
Yeah. There's a few fires that were lit throughout. Like they worked their way to different points of the match where they were both out of it, and then they both kind of came back. Like,
yes. Thank you for saying that too, because they built the match. It wasn't 100 miles an hour to start. It was, obviously there was brutality as a blood feud and stuff, but they just built and built and built. It wasn't just 100 miles an hour, everything happening all at once.
You kind of got to like a certain point where you like normally it would be over, and then they kind of something like clicked in their head, and they're like, okay, I gotta go past this line now that we're not supposed to cross, And
Yes.
Corey Graves even said, he's like, I feel like we're watching something we're not supposed to be watching right now. Ooh. This is uncomfortable. And Michael Cole was just great too throughout it. Yeah. And
Punk got Corey Graves.
Yeah, it was great. When Punk got the toolbox, like that's when you seen like that his eyes just go freaking to a different person, turned into that monster that fights the monsters, and Drew was just psychopath the whole time.
And I was gonna say the most brutal part of the match until the whole thing with Drew's head being split open was at the end. We had CM Punk struggling to get to his feet. Drew McIntyre was calling for the Claymore. Actually, there was some big pops for Drew McIntyre throughout this match. I said, man, oh man, we're getting cheers for Drew in the crowd. And definitely. He calls for the Claymore. He went to hit the Claymore. He missed. He landed with the small of his back right on the corner of the steps. And I said, oh, man.
Yeah, that was a hell of a bump to take. Yeah, like, ooh,
and it incapacitated him just enough for CM Punk to wrap a chain around his leg, pick up Drew McIntyre, hit the go to sleep, onto the knee with the chain on it. 1, 2, 3. CM Punk is the winner of this blood feud.
Dump those fucking beads in his mouth, down his throat. GTS him.
And you even called it last week on our WWE review when Punk was saying it. You're going to be on your knees. And you're not going to pray to God. You're not going to pray to the devil. You're going to pray to CM Punk. And they even had that spot in the match.
Yep.
We're gonna
Don't pray to God, pray to me. Yeah.
Jones Stradamus over there, because
some would call it blasphemous, but I just call it good old fun.
What a beautiful match. Even at the end of the match, selling the match, CM Punk was walking out. He went to give a high five to a fan and collapsed in the aisleway. The EMTs, as they were, came out and had to administer oxygen to him.
Yeah. Shout out to MJF with the oxygen tank. That's what I thought. I was like, jeez.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit overly whatever. But
maybe do you think that was real or no? He was good. Yeah, I don't know. He was stumbling. He played it great like it was though. And so did Drew. And just throughout the whole match, man, for anybody to talk shit about CM Punk now and say that he can't hang, he didn't look exposed one bit. Like, he was in there with Drew the whole time, and that's props, and to Drew too, because they just looked as equals. They both looked like they were in their prime.
Yeah. Props to both these competitors, man. It was a hard fought match, and it was really, really well done.
Yeah.
Is there a couple things I would have liked or had done differently? Of course, this is wrestling. It's all subjective, but
Right.
overall, to tell the finality of this story that we know of for right now,
Yeah.
There's no better way to have done it the way these two guys did it. And shout out and props to both of them for that.
Yeah. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Bad Blood, Hell in the Cell, instant 5-star classic match of the year, baby.
Okay, Meltzer.
Yeah, I put it up there. It's got to be one of the matches of the year, without a doubt. Obviously, a lot of people are ranking it very high, like for Hell in the Cell matches, for one, like top 3, top 5, whatever you want to call it. Definitely of the last 20 years or whatever, for sure. But and then they're rating it one of the best fights and feuds in WWE history now too.